And I think the thing about hardback is that you spend a lot of time promoting it, and no one buys hardbacks. It's too expensive. And then the paperback comes out, but you've done all your promotion. It's a sort of crazy model.
It's a crazy model, but what publishers always used to say is, well, you have to have the hardback because you won't get reviews otherwise. You'd have a very interesting thriller heroine. And if you then pit against her another woman who is essentially represents the rest of us, who kind of burns the toast and all that sort of thing, I thought it would be a very strong contrast between these two, in a way, sort of, as I said, the rest of us, but the whole idea of a character who did precisely what they wanted in a completely predatory way. I think women are interested in each other's lives in a way that men aren't particularly. And especially women who are in a kind of hostile situation are interested in getting under each other's skin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to How to Have Extraordinary Relationships with me, Lucy Cavendish, your host. And I'm very excited to be here today with the author, Jennings, who is the person behind The Killing Eve. I think there's not a person on the planet who doesn't know that right now. But what people may not know, why should they know, is that I met Luke many, many, many years ago when I was the features editor of ES Magazine. And Luke came to write for the magazine, and he was such a brilliant writer, still is a brilliant writer. And that's how we met. And he was the only journalist I knew who had a literary agent who was sorting out contracts. And that was the legendary Pat Kavanagh, wasn't it?
It was, gosh, yes. How long ago was all that, Lucy?
Well, so I had
now.
Raymond at 29, so it was before I was 29. I'm now nearly 60. So it was over 30 years ago. That's when I met you. And you were and still are very elegant. And you had, I know you're a dancer. You've written many, many books. So we're going to get into all of that. But welcome and thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
It's a huge pleasure.
So you've got a new book out. Tell us about the book. I mean, we all want to know. We just want to know about Killing Eve. Everyone wants to know about that because it took me a bit of time to get there. And there was something about you having written it, and I was like, what if it isn't like Luke's thing? But once I started watching it, I was completely addicted. So tell us all about Killing Eve and the new book.
Well, the whole Killing Eve thing started when I wrote a book called Codename Villanelle, which I self-published because I was sort of fed up of traditional. I'd published some books traditionally, but I was fed up of the long time lapse between writing a book and seeing it published. And there was this whole business of a book had to come out in paperback, in hardback, which meant that by the time the paperback came out, which was what people bought,
yeah,
it was about 3 years or something since you had handed the damn thing in. And the whole thing was so grinding and so slow. What I was writing was a fast to read thriller. And it just seemed, I thought, well, honestly, I'd rather publish it myself and let it take its chances than go through all that grind again. And so I just self-published it on Amazon.
yes,
and kind of told people about it and twisted people's arm and said, read it and see what you think, see if you enjoy it. And I mean, I was just incredibly lucky that one of the people who did see it was an agent, actually an actor's agent, who shared an office space with a TV producer, and she read it and she kind of carried it across the floor. And the TV producer optioned Killing Eve. So that's how the whole thing started off. I mean, it was a stroke of luck, but I did think that the whole idea had legs as a thriller series and would work on TV. So I'd sort of written it with that in mind a bit.
So, back, I mean, back then, and even now, I think there's a snobbery around self-publishing where people kind of go, oh, self-publish a book, aka no one wants to publish you. How did you feel about that when because you were published, Atlantic was shortlisted, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I had got both fiction and not non-fiction books that that had been published, but there, I mean, it's hard to remember now, just going back, this is about 12 years, just how clunky the traditional publishing model was. And I mean, it works if you have a book that, you want it to come out as a slab of hardback with a, kind of big Christmas presenty kind of book.
Mm.
But it's hopeless for popular fiction.
Yes.
Um, and actually, I think Amazon realized this because they just started a program of something called Kindle Singles.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a dating app.
Yeah, it does sound like,
They're
yeah,
not
exactly.
singles. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, carry on. Yeah.
And the idea behind that was that they approached authors who had been published and say, do you want to write something that's kind of outside of what your publishers expect of you? Maybe it's too long, maybe it's too short. So I was publishing these short thrillers, which Amazon then in those dream days actually promoted. They
Mm.
sent they sent clips to people who had bought thrillers and said, if you like that, you'll like this kind of thing. I mean
Yeah.
that that lasted not very long, unfortunately, but I was definitely a beneficiary of that. So, but I think the thing with self-publishing is that it's not a second best to traditional publishing. It's just an alternative. And I think probably of the dozen most highly paid authors of any kind in the world, probably most of them are self-published.
Oh, that's really
Certainly,
interesting.
romance writers um, who tend to be female in the United States are selling, making millions of dollars a year out of self-published ventures. And so many things like, I mean, Twilight started off, I think I'm right, as a kind of self-published fanfic series or something.
Yes.
Am I right about that?
Well, yeah, and I mean, things start off 50 Shades of Grey. Not that I'm saying that's a big.
Fifty Shades of Grey. Am I thinking 50 Shades? Maybe
Might
I
be, yeah.
am.
I think that
Yes.
started off as a, I don't know how it started off, but no one approached her and said, "Do you want to write a novel?" They start off somewhere else, don't they? A bit like Codename Villanelle. It starts off as something maybe shorter.
Hmm.
It's a good idea. You want to get it out there. And I think the thing about hardback is that you spend a lot of time promoting it, and no one buys hardbacks. It's too expensive. And then the paperback comes out, but you've done all your promotion. It's a sort of crazy model.
It's a crazy model, but what publishers always used to say is, well, you have to have the hardback because you won't get reviews otherwise. But then
Yes.
that was while the book reviewing process was in the stranglehold of half a dozen newspaper literary editors,
Mm,
as
mm.
opposed to, all the world is a critic now. So that's a very the whole economy is so different now.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the publishers that I have now, Boldwood, are they I hand my book in and 3 months later it comes out in hardback, softback, in all formats.
That's brilliant.
Um,
So you get to choose you want a hub. Yeah, that's brilliant.
yeah.
So it's
No,
really
the
it's
hardback
really
comes
quick.
a bit later.
Yeah.
It's a couple of months later or something. But basically it's it's a model which is geared towards the person who's actually going to be buying it,
Mm, mm.
rather than the lunching convenience of the publisher.
So, we'll go back to the books you've written before because I love them. But thinking about Villanelle,
Mm.
there's so much that goes into it. So how does they come about? And I'm sure they warp and wefted and got molded. I mean, this character who's attractive, sexy, immoral, but compulsive. I mean, where does she come from, Villanelle?
I honestly don't know because um, I was this when they launched this whole Kindle Singles thing on Amazon. I was approached at a book launch by an Amazon editor in the days when there were such things. And he said to me, we had the conversation that I described to you. He said, "Is there anything that you'd like to publish that isn't covered by your traditional publisher?" And I literally just made a split-second decision and said yes, and described this idea, which I think I didn't even know that I had this idea in my head, but the idea of a psychopathic, guilt-free assassin who um, who kind of upturned the idea of what thrillers were really. Um, so this was somebody who was Villanelle was going to be in charge. She wasn't going to be one of these kind of weird sort of dolly bird assassins that were so popular in the 60s and 70s. I don't know if you remember, there used to be a character called Modesty
Oh
Blaze.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. She was in the cartoons, wasn't she? She
She
sort
was
of
in cartoons,
dramatic
yes,
breasts and sort of tiny waist, and yeah.
exactly, and always dressed in a kind of in a kind of cat suit, no matter what the weather.
That's
Um, but I do remember Modesty Blaze with some affection. Um, but I just thought, what would be the dynamic if you had somebody who enjoyed all the the old question, if you could press a button and someone would die and you would get £1 million. If you have somebody who unequivocally says yes to that and suffers no guilt whatsoever, because their brains are just simply rearranged in a different way from the rest of us, and you apply that psychology to somebody who's actually very presentable and highly able to function in society. I just thought you'd have a very interesting thriller heroine. And if you then pit against her another woman who is essentially represents the rest of us, who kind of burns the toast and all that sort of thing, um, I thought it would be a very strong contrast between these two, in a way, sort of, as I said, the rest of us, but the whole idea of a character who did precisely what they wanted in a completely predatory way, which in a sense is, in a wider sense, is what business is becoming now. And so she was always the representative of a group that was as much kind of economic as political. So less a kind of crypto-fascist secret organization and more a bunch of people who just wanted to control things by getting rich and controlling the markets and using assassination to do that. I mean, I don't want to go too heavily into the idea that wasn't actually there of a kind of predatory economy, but she would definitely represent that if there was such an idea. But I mean, mostly it was it was a character who you never know when you first come up with a character whether they're going to have legs, whether they're going to be susceptible to character development infinitely and have that journey and develop and change and become better or become worse, happier or unhappier. Sometimes characters are stuck, they're fixed, and nothing you can do with them will make them develop. But she was somebody who was able to develop, and the situation developed. And now there are six Killing Eve books out, and I'm halfway through the seventh. And there will be after there will be another three coming out over the next 18 months.
Oh, lots of them.
So, yes, I mean, again, that's another thing that's changed is that um, readers don't want to wait ages between books,
Yeah.
and um, so there's if you want to be there's an attention war, you know, between um, if you take your foot off the gas, then you're not going to do as well. You need to, so to speak, feed your market. And actually, it's perfect if publishers fall into line, then it's perfectly possible to bring a book out every 6 months.
Mm.
Um, because so much of the old model was predicated around um, publishers' schedules,
Mm. Mm.
which really are of no interest to the average author. But if you switch the thing round so that you look at what readers actually want, and readers want a new book every 6 months if they like a series,
Yeah.
which is fine by me because the Villanelle books aren't massively long. But I think of some of the people who write those enormously thick, um, especially romantasy books,
Mm.
dragons, and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, those are always like paving stones,
Yes.
and yet their writers have to keep bashing them. I honestly don't know how they do it.
That's what my eldest son does, but we'll talk, yeah. Yeah.
He writes them.
Forks, dragon. Oh yeah, he'll never stop. That it flows out. I mean, it's just a whole world he's in. I mean,
Yeah.
but I mean, you know, so getting back to Villanelle. So she
Mm.
can't she comes with a character. Did you have to do, or did you not have to? Did you do that whole thing of why is she like the, did you map her out? Some authors do that whole thing of she was born in Prague in 19, 75, and then her father was an essay, whatever. Did you do that, or did she just kind of come and off she went?
No, I did. She has got a very detailed backstory, um, which which sets up an argument as to whether she's like she is because of her background or because she was born like that.
Mm,
But she's a kind of child of post-Soviet chaos, and her mother dies as a consequence of Chernobyl when
mm,
she's 6. Her father's a soldier and is often away for long periods of time, during which she gets dumped in an orphanage where she gets bullied. So she has a really grim childhood, and um, and that gives her every reason to not want to ever return to anything like that, no matter what the cost.
and did you know that before you, as it were, put pen to paper? Had you already mapped that out?
Yes, I knew that that's
Like,
what
yeah.
that if you're going to get someone who is going to do truly appalling things, then you need somebody who life has damaged already,
Yes.
and who possibly had the proclivity to behave in this way anyway. Maybe, maybe not. We don't know.
We
But
don't know. Yes. Yes. So you've got her, and then she has her foil slash, I don't know, love interest. We then have Eve.
you then have Eve, who is sort of who is a middle class person who is a bit like yourself, really. Although obviously
I do,
a little less competent, and hasn't got beautiful pictures all over her wall necessarily.
I do burn my toast. I have to tell you. Yeah, I'm a toast burner. Yeah.
Well, somebody who represents a sort of middle class London normality. She works for the security services, but in the most boring part of it. Um, and lives in a flat with a husband who kind of just stacks stuff all up around the place, and they don't have a huge amount of money, and but she's clever and she's unfulfilled, and the if you wanted to contract the whole Villanelle and Eve paradigm into a single sentence, it's just the word two women aboard.
I
And
love
that's
it. Two women
and
aboard.
yeah, I mean that's really it. And they're underappreciated at work, um, and they just want their horizons to be a bit wider, and each represents this this kind of fascinating alternative world to the other. So it really starts off, the relationship starts off as a kind of passionate interest. I think I think women are interested in each other's lives in a way that men aren't particularly.
Mm,
And especially women who are in a kind of hostile situation are interested in getting under each other's skin in a way that's sort of visual, social, is much more whole than the structure of a male rivalry, or a male adversarial relationship is very established, and it's very formal,
mm,
and and that's what the most spy novels are predicated around. But the idea of the idea of women who are very conscious of each other's, the face that each presents to the world, and use that as a way to undermine each other and get to each other, struck me as being interesting in a way that there was very little to say about, in the spy novel, that hasn't been said about betrayal, about adversarial relationships, about A hunting for B. Um, it's a very crowded room, that,
mm.
and I think we're kind of quite familiar with it.
Yes.
But when you when you sort of set that on its head and pitch two women against each other, where it becomes certainly not more trivial, but much more personal.
Mm.
Um, and each understands the other's strengths and insecurities. It's a different battleground. It's not more or less vicious. It's not more or less interesting. It's just different. And I didn't think that spy novels, which had become very very kind of formalized. I mean, I suppose you have John le Carre who casts I mean, who's a genius. I love his books, but the spy novel had become sort of concretized in a way. The roles have become fixed, even the vocabulary. Um, I mean, the security services and journalists now talk about moles, but that was just a word made up by John le Carre. That's
Oh,
not,
was it?
yes,
I didn't know that.
an awful lot of the trappings of espionage in real life um, have sort of blurred, have shifted from fiction into fact, and the way that people talk about it. And I love all that. I think it's fascinating, and I'm always interested to talk to people from the security services, and I love reading spy novels. But as I said, the it's almost kind of, like the Vatican or something. The whole thing has become ritualized,
Mm,
and we know where we are, and we know what the language is, and it's very difficult to. I just thought it was the idea of it as a principally male, gadgety battleground was uninteresting.
yes.
Uh, and the idea of two women who are ferociously interested in each other in a way that pursuit and who is pursuing who by the end of it. So it gets much more complex, and it's just this fencing match that takes place for psychological dominance. I thought that was very interesting.
Mm,
Um, so that's sort of how it came about, and it really was initially led by Eve pursues Villanelle,
mm,
wants to hunt her down, but you can't. The whole thing gets artificial. You can't tease that out indefinitely.
yes.
So.
Yes.
Um, So then there is a kind of collision, a relationship which is so full of unresolvable elements that it's always going to be catastrophic, that it's chronically in crisis, and yet it is something that neither of them can let go.
Mm,
And
yeah.
again, um, so it's if you could call it a romance, but it's a very, very dark idea of what romance is. But it does, on the other hand, have its compensations for both of them. And the great question is, what if Villanelle is capable of all the appalling things that she does and doing them without blinking an eyelid, is she actually feeling? Has she got any empathy? Um, And so, is she capable of sustaining any relationship, or is she acting the whole thing by doing what psychologists call mirroring? Do you know what I mean? Which
Yeah, yeah,
is,
yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, oh, look, I can see that's how normal people act.
yes,
So, okay, well, I want to appear normal for all sorts of different reasons, right? Maybe
hmm,
manipulative reasons. Oh, so I say, when my eldest son, who's very spectrumy, when he was quite young, learned that to say to women, "I like your hair," worked well. So he'd say to everyone. So they'd meet my friend and go, "I really like your hair," and she'd say, "Great." And the next day he'd say, "I really like your hair," and she'd say, "Okay, you said that yesterday." He'd be like, "Yeah, but I do," because he'd learned this gets a good response.
yeah. Well, I thought it. I like the idea of a relationship where one person is constantly asking themselves if the other person has in fact learnt their love language
Yes.
from the person that they're talking to, in a way like AI learns.
Yes.
And so this is what Eve is always really asking herself, trying to persuade herself that this is that she is cared for, that she's loved. But we don't know
Yeah.
because Villanelle is the perfect mimic.
It's brilliant. Gets to the heart of all
But
of us, in fact.
sorry?
Gets to the heart to lots of relationships. Am I actually really loved by them? I mean, it's brilliant. Because of course, Eve's bored. She's married this man and she's clever and like she's bored. And
Mm,
in comes a completely compelling character. She's compelling.
mm. It is more about um, she carries with her a power which is it's not that she's intrinsically immensely sexy. It's that she carries with her this power,
Mm,
which enables her to just behave exactly as she likes without any sort of let or hindrance. So everything she does, because she's intrinsically selfish, is what she wants to do.
mm.
Um, Again, Eve is always saying, is she capable of selflessness? Or is there always? But I think we all say that.
Mm.
Is what I'm saying um, AI learned? Am I performing myself? Or do I really feel all of these things? And in truth, we're all so shell-shocked that we can't feel everything all the time. We have to perform some of it some of the time.
Yes, I think that's very true. So
Um,
the first book comes out, and what happens? Do a lot of people read it? Do you get a lot of good feedback, or is it one of those ones that just sort of grows over a period of time?
no, it was quite successful in in the kind of limited sort of way. I mean, it went to the top of the it was in Amazon self-publishing terms a bestseller. It was, top of those lists. And so people did read it, but I'm not kidding myself. This is not War and Peace. This is not millions and millions of readers. It's sort of some thousands probably at that stage.
Mm, mm.
Um, and it was out for about, I think, 3 or 4 months, and then it was optioned.
Yes. And then, Phoebe Waller-Bridge gets involved, doesn't she? I mean, I've read some interviews you've done, a few, saying that there was a lot of backwards and forwards between you and she just sort of went with it.
Well, yes, what happened was I mean, you're a writer, you know that being optioned actually is not that huge of a
No,
deal.
loads of people get option, nothing
Yeah,
happens.
option. Yeah, people, your titles. I mean, it sounds great, but actually, it's
Mm.
just somebody scooping up
Yeah.
your idea in case they want it
Yes.
at some future point. And most options are not renewed after the first year.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, that cool, but fine, nice. But I didn't think too much about it. And then I went in to see the producer, Sally Woodward Gentle, and she said, you know, um, I was sort of wary because I'd been there before. She said, we're definitely going to make this, which is a much more a much more positive reaction than you usually get, where they're nice and they give you a cup of coffee and you never see them again.
Yeah.
And Sally had a list of potential writers, and I just went through the list, and I didn't know Phoebe at that time. And I said, "Who's this one?" And she had just had this successful Edinburgh Festival run of the original Fleabag.
Mm.
And that had transferred to London and had just started playing at the Soho Theatre, one woman show. So I went to see that and I kind of ambushed Phoebe as she went out, as she came out, and introduced myself. And she said, "Oh, well, I've read it. I love it." And and we were on the same page from the word go.
Mm.
I mean, there wasn't a broadcaster in the frame at that stage, but we immediately started talking about in terms of ideas and character and all of those kind of things. So it seemed so from a very early stage, it started behaving like a project that was going to happen rather than like these projects that one seems to be always involved in where something might be happening, but it probably isn't, and people might be interested, but they actually aren't, and all of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
This kind of felt differently. And I was also confident in the idea. I thought this, this would make good television. And so I mean, nevertheless, it took 18 months before we had a um, Sky TV came and went, and one of the reasons that Sky TV actually went, it was a very odd thing. There was a commissioning editor there who was very keen on it, and a meeting had been set up where myself, Phoebe, and Sally were going to go across London, and then there was a tube strike on that day, and we couldn't get a taxi, and we couldn't go, and we couldn't keep the meeting, with by the end of the week, the woman had left. She had lost her job.
Oh my goodness.
And so that was back to square one
I bet they're cross
because of a
about
tube
that.
strike.
Because the tube strike.
Yeah. So it would have been Killing Eve would have been a Sky production,
And
but it
then
is.
I mean, you get Sandra Oh, because totally got to have an American, and she's brilliant, and Jodie Crimmer, who's brilliant. And I read a piece that you say like you'd say to Phoebe, hang on, that death or murder can't happen because there's so much evidence, and she'd be like, doesn't matter. Which of course is true. When we're watching it, I'm not thinking, well, hang on a minute, that couldn't possibly happen because you're so involved with the whole story.
Well, I think that the difference between fiction and TV is very much to do with that. When you're writing, people are reading at this slow,
Mm.
not slow, but analytical pace. You
Yes.
just you can't fudge anything. You can't blur anything because your reader's just going to stop and just wonder. But when you're watching TV, it happens and you don't question it. You don't question how it could be happening because the fact that it is happening in front of your eyes is proof that it is, so to speak. So I would constantly say to Phoebe, this is nuts. She's left fingerprints all over the place, DNA, there's that. She'd be caught on CCTV, yada, yada, yada. And Phoebe would say, this is TV. It doesn't matter. She
Yeah.
just does what she does. You know, if she if she pushes, I said to one of the other writers later in the series, she pushes a character in front of a tube and she and her victim are the only people on the platform. I mean, when have you ever been in the tube in the middle of the day where you and the person you want to kill are the only people on?
Never.
But if you or push somebody under a bus or something, and then just walk away from it. In a book, you couldn't do that. On
No.
television, well, of course you can do it. We've just done it.
Mm. Mm.
Um, so so that I mean, of course, she's right. It's you haven't when you're watching, you're not questioning in the same way. You're accepting because you can see it. When
Yes.
you're reading, you have to visualize it, so it has to make logical sense. But when you see TV, that decision has been made for you.
That's
Uh,
right. Yes, you can kind of let go of all the things. Although I find it very difficult. I think, well, hang on a minute,
I
that
know,
wouldn't happen. I mean, why would she get in that car? It's a ridiculous thing to do.
I
It's like
know.
when people that say, I think there's a killer outside, and then they go outside. You're like, well, you wouldn't go
Yes,
outside if there was a killer outside and lock the door and barricade yourself in. You wouldn't go, hello, is there anyone there? Yes, there's someone there with an axe, obviously.
obviously, yes, I know. Um, I mean, I find TV drama often excruciating to watch.
Yes.
I mean, forget killers with axes. Uh, I say she would never go out with somebody with a guy wearing those trousers, or why doesn't he put his hood up in the rain? Why
Yeah,
is he standing there getting rained on? All you have to do is wear a hat. And yet, people in TV series always stand there, men in particular, staring into the middle distance, being rained on. No one in their right mind would do that. And yet, people do that.
yeah.
Crazy thing where people say some punchy line and then just walk purposefully out of shot, and you know they've got nowhere to go.
Was there a moment where you're sitting there? I have a particular passion for Kim Bodnia. I've never met him. I can't help myself. I
Oh,
just
yeah.
see Kim Bodnia and kind of go, oh, it's Kim Bodnia. So it's Kim Bodnia, Jodie Cromer, Sandra Oh, Phoebe, and you're all there. Was there a moment when you thought, holy smoke, this is something pretty extraordinary?
Well, there's a very weird moment when, for months and months, as I told you, it had just been basically me and Phoebe and Sally sitting in an office talking with whiteboards and all of that kind of thing. And there were sort of six people in the equation. And then there was the first production meeting where everybody came, all the wardrobe people, all the writers, all the actors, all the production people. Suddenly you go from six people and you got 200 people in a room.
Wow.
And that is very, very strange moment. And you suddenly, I mean, that's the moment you realize that the thing it's way beyond your control.
Mm,
Certainly, as the author, you're barely you're barely a presence anymore. The things move beyond you.
mm.
And Fiona Shaw came up to me and said, I hate all my costumes. Can you do something about it? And I said, well, I can tell you who to speak to, but honestly, I'm not the person who can. And and then it's this huge thing. There are hundreds of people involved, and then there are more than that because there are people distributing it, and at that point, um, I just got on with writing the next book. Um,
But it all comes from you, Luke. There'd be none of this without you.
well, I think everything comes from an idea,
Mm.
and I'd love to say that, you know, I went to a kind of remote cottage in the country and thought about this for months and months and months, but it literally it just came into my head, the whole thing.
Yes, you were
And
sitting there and you wrote it.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've ever done that. I mean, used to do that as a journalist all the time, go into features meetings, not having thought of an idea.
And I
And
was
then
your
when you're
features
there,
editor.
just like top of the head stuff.
Yeah,
And
but
now
you see, that were journalism. I mean, I remember we just laughed at tremendous amount and ate lots of Chinese food and just went, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Wouldn't that be funny? And just came up with mad, crazy ideas.
but they were, I mean, of those mad, crazy ideas, and I think we can both think of quite a few of them. That process of, as you say, just shouting and laughing and eating Chinese food did generate some very good ideas.
Yeah, it did.
I don't think they would have been better ideas if we'd been sitting sternly around editorial table.
No, I agree. I agree. Just a couple of, I know we're near the end. Do you like Villanelle?
Do I like Villanelle?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I adore Villanelle.
Yes.
Um, I mean, she's sort of my creation. I can't, um, and she's the appalling part of all of us that we don't admit to.
Yeah.
The grotesquely selfish, the person who, I mean, she's not just the person who takes the last roast potato. She's the person who, does what suits her in absolutely everything. And if I look at myself, I mean, an awful lot of what we all do is driven by selfishness, and she's just the embodiment of that, taken to the. So I'd love to say she's nothing to do with me, but I think she is. She's a sort of theoretical part of me.
Well, I think what is attractive about her for women, I can't talk about men. Obviously, I mean Jodie Creme is beautiful and amazing, is that she does do exactly what she wants to do. It's just part of what she wants to do is make a lot of money, and that involves killing people.
Yeah.
But the idea that you get up every day and think I'm only going to do what I want to do, I'm not going to do anything I don't want to do is for a lot of people amazing.
Yes, because we've been beaten down into patterns of behavior, and actually doing what you want to do is not the selfish thing that we're constantly told it is. It's actually acting up against the ways in which we've been conditioned.
Mm.
So I think we should be less afraid of the idea of doing what we want to do than we are. We shouldn't be intimidated into thinking that we have to perform this kind of selflessness that we don't necessarily feel. Um, and I mean, anybody who's been parents or sort of dealt with a workplace or something knows that you could happily murder the people around you.
Oh
Um,
yeah. There's a few people I could think of if someone said it's £1 million, I might say yes, maybe I'm a psychopath. I'd probably say, okay, go on then. Bung up my bank account and off we go.
yes, I mean, it's if you take the money out of it,
Yeah.
it's not just because she likes nice things and so she needs the money for the nice things. It's it is because doing what she wants is what she's promised herself from a childhood of never doing anything that's her choice.
Mm.
So it's not necessarily the kind of the absolute evil that we see it as. It is all a bit more equivocal.
Mm.
In the latest book, which is Killing Eve Medusa, I have Villanelle do something that I always wanted her to do, which is to go to a nanny college because she has to pass herself off as a nanny. Uh,
So she's
you
got to
know,
learn
one
to be kind of responsible and nice to children.
Well, she has to. She's hired by a Turkish mafia boss to to be the companion to his 18-year-old daughter.
Brilliant.
Um, but because he's a very traditional man, and so she goes to a kind of one of these colleges where you wear a little straw hat and white gloves, push a pram.
Oh, I can't wait. So we've got to finish, I'm afraid. We didn't talk about dancing. We didn't talk about, Robert Nairac, we wanted to talk about, but we'll have to come back and talk about these things
Another day.
another day. Um, So, where can people find you? The book's out now, isn't
The
it?
book's out now. It's published by Boldwood Books. They can find it on Amazon or any of the booksellers, or they can go to my website. And yes, I mean, the book's in the shops. Please buy it. You'll enjoy it. Please buy all of them. You'll enjoy all of them.
Yeah.
And just a message to all of your people: start doing exactly what you like.
Brilliant message. Thank you so much, Luke. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Great pleasure, Lucy. It's lovely to see you again.
Take care.